Hello, I am Connie Colosi, Director of Media Text and Digital Learning for Pinellas County Schools. And with me today is Kevin Hagebrook. Welcome, Kevin.
Hello.
Kevin works with me in the department, and he is a Technology Integration Coordinator. Today, we are going to visit Curlew Creek Elementary. Kevin, what are we going to see there?
Hi, Dr. Colosi. So we had the opportunity, with the permission of Curlew Creek and their wonderful teachers, to actually come out and get some smartboard interaction to see what it looks like in the classroom with our students. And as you will see, Laura, which is a technology integration coordinator with me, is actually demonstrating some of the features and some of the interaction with a smartboard. So we're going to see a little bit of what Laura does with a smartboard.
All right.
We were invited into Michelle Zajak's classroom. She's a third grade teacher at Curlew Creek Elementary, and we took her lesson that she had planned for that day and just adapted it to the smartboard. So the first thing that we started with was obviously the objectives and the scale, the Marzano scale that the kids were working on, and it was about line plots and data on graphing, making a bar graph. So that's what we started with the objective, what their I can statement would be for that segment of the lesson, and then I showed them the scale. So here we go, answering questions about data, help you better understand the information, because the bar graph is there trying to give us information. It's not just pretty bars on a paper, right? It's trying to tell us something about the number of votes and the topic. So, and what is this then? This was the, Aisha?
It's the title of the bar graph.
The title of the bar graph, the information we're trying to get. So how many more votes did computers receive than space? All right, so the first thing I have to do is look at the computers, and I always told my kids to just go ahead and figure out how many people voted for computers. How many people?
10.
How do you know that, Caleb?
Because it's counting by twos, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
10.
And the orange bar graph of computers ends at 10.
Ends at 10, so that's how many they voted for 10. And how many voted for space? Kira?
They voted for.
Is it 4?
No, it's 3 because it's like right in the middle.
It's in the middle, so it's not all the way to the 4, but it's not at the 2, it's in the middle. And what's in the middle of 2 and 4?
3.
3. So why don't you draw a line and write a 3. Just use your pen. So there you go. Okay, so now we have our numbers. And I always do this first so that we don't make a mistake when we're adding and subtracting. Thank you. We have our numbers up there rather than just counting spaces. Do we need to do books and health for this problem?
No.
No. So what number sentence can I use to figure out how many more votes did computers receive than space? What number sentence, Mallory? 10 minus 3 equals, move over, Moby, equals 7. 10 minus 3 equals 7. So are we done now?
No.
What do we do next? What did we not do yet, Ben?
You need to write like 7 more people voted for computers.
7 more people voted for computers. Because now, I'm going to read my answer. 7 more people voted for computers than space. Should we add that?
Yes.
To make sure we're completely answering. Yep, I'm going to erase my period. Computers than space. In this segment, we literally took snips from the Go Math lesson and I put them into the Smart Notebook, and I did the guided piece with the instruction right from Go Math, showed them 2 ways to solve the problems, but my end goal was to get them to ask questions about the graph and be able to understand the information that the graph was trying to give them. So we moved from the 3 on that scale to the 4. I created a little bar graph for them to actually come up to the board and be interactive with the smartboard, and then be able to create the graph. And then I sort of guide them to ask questions about the graph so that they can figure out what that graph is trying to tell them. Here we have sort of, I'm going to move my bar up out of the way, sort of an empty bar graph that we're going to make, and then we're going to ask ourselves some questions about it, okay? Because now that you guys can answer those questions, the next step To move to the 3s is to be able to ask the questions. So I have a laptop, a desktop computer. What's the difference between a laptop and a desktop? Do you guys know?
A laptop, you could like bring it everywhere you want. And
Right.
a desk computer has to just stay where
Has
it
to
is.
stay at the desk. So, and who knows what a Surface Pro is? Oh, we got some Microsoft people in here. Uh-huh. Who knows what an iPad is? Everybody's hand should be up. And you don't know what that is, though, do you?
Yes.
Oh, you do know what a PlayStation is?
Yes.
All right, just making sure. So you get to go pick your favorite kind of technology. And then we're going to have to decide how we count them, okay, how we number them. Caleb said the other graph was by 2s. We're going to decide if by 2s is efficient, or maybe we go by 5s, maybe we go by 1s. We'll see. We're going to do that after. All right, so each person, one at a time, is going to come up, take a square. We're going to make the bar graph. My favorite kind of technology is an iPad. So I'm going to put it right on top of the iPad, okay? So who's going to go first? You've been sitting very quietly. Why don't you go first? All right, next person. Why don't you go, Caleb? Go. We're going to go right down the row this time. Just make it quick. Looks like we've got a pretty good bar graph here. What do you think? In this piece of the lesson, which is actually the most important piece for me, I had the kids created the graph. They were now looking at the graph, and I was trying to pull questions from them, trying to get them to glean some information from that graph, asking them to compare and contrast, and then eventually, set them up to go and write questions about the graph, and then be able to answer questions about the graph. All right. So what's the first thing that we should do? What did we do? We have our title, favorite technology, but what is it telling us? Miss Ajax's class likes what, Ben?
Likes the iPads the most.
iPads the most. Are we finished making our bar graph? What else do we need to do?
We also need to maybe add Miss Ajax.
Oh, Miss Ajax needs to add hers.
Right, come in.
Miss Ajax likes iPads too.
You need to
Okay.
pick one.
All right, I already picked one. I already picked iPads, so I did mine. All right, so remember how I showed you I like to add the numbers now? I need a volunteer. Kira, come and put a number on top of the laptop so that when we're doing our math problems, we have numbers rather than just green squares to work with. So right at the top of it, go ahead and write the number of that. 4. Good. Asia, why don't you do desktop computers, since you guys are down front right here. Ben, come and do Surface. Is there 3 there, though?
Oh, oops.
Whoop, whoop.
Bless you. All right, let's double check. Make sure before we do our math problems, make sure we counted right, because if we start doing our math problems with a number that's incorrect, what's going to happen to our answers?
You're going to get the wrong.
They're going to be wrong. So 1, 2, 3, 4, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Check. 1, 2, 3. Check. All right. The last piece of the lesson was really an extension of the goals, actually. I just had them look at the way the data was displayed. I wanted them to decide what was the best way to show their information. So they had to count the votes and see, were they odd, were they even, what should we go up by 2s, should we label it by 4s, how was the best way to label that graph. So they had all kinds of ideas for that. So now, how should I label this side? What should I do? What would be the best way to do it? Ideas. Ben?
Dang.
You lost your thought? Well, hang on to it. Try to get it back. You can tell me in a minute.
You should put numbers on the side so you know.
Numbers on the side, definitely. So the number of votes, I should write that over here. Okay. Number of votes. But now, what else? Kira?
You need to make the numbers
What numbers now? What numbers should I make, Madison?
1 through 10.
1 through 10? Why did you say that?
Because the highest is 7, so I thought
10 would be a good number. All right. Should I start at 0 or 1?
0.
Always start at 0 down here. How should I go in what increment? Because Caleb said it was going by 2s on the other chart. Mallory?
2.
Go by 2s?
No. Yes.
Who votes for 2s? Hands up. Who votes for not 2s? All right, why not? Why not 2s?
Because on the 3, you could still do it, but
How could you do it?
you could just put a half.
You could put a half, and what other one would need a half?
7.
The 7. All right, so I have 3 categories that would go by 2s and 2 that don't. So does it really matter? If they were all even numbers and all went by 2s, I would definitely go by 2s. But now that we have some odd numbers, 7 and 3, we don't have to go by 2s because they can go in the middle. You guys already know that, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I had more room, I'd make it a little bit neater. So are we done? No. What else? So once they had all the information that they needed about that lesson and knew their objectives, I sent them back to do a guided piece first. It was just a few 1, 2, 3 questions that we would go around and check and make sure they got them right. And then they would get sent on to their independent work because it's good to talk and do it, do a guided reading or guided instruction in front of them. But in testing time, they actually have to be there reading the words and processing it on their own at their desk. So that just tied the lesson back to paper, pencil, and they were done. What question could we ask?
How many there is in all?
How many votes there were in all? How many votes in all? Good, Madison.
How many children got surveyed?
How many children got surveyed? What about the difference between some, maybe? Ben?
Mrs. Ajax's class likes iPads the most.
iPads the most. Or you could say, how much more does Ms. Ajax's class like iPads? Finish my sentence. Josh?
Computers.
Than computers. So how many more students like iPads than computers? What's another question I could ask using 2 columns? Using 2 columns. Who has not given me a... Brody, make up a question.
How many votes were in Surface and laptops?
Combined?
Yeah.
How many votes did Surface and laptops get combined? Good answer.
Or you say, you see this class, like PlayStation, then iPad, then Surface Pro.
Miss Ajax's class liked the PlayStation by 1 more vote than Surface Pros. Good. All right. One more, Ben. Last chance.
Well, you should put the type of technology down where the type
I didn't label the bottom row. You're right. I should label the bottom row. Underneath here. Should I write it on the board down here?
No.
It won't fit. So I'll just put type of technology. Good catch. Good catch. Okay. I thought maybe the wording down there would be okay, but we can definitely add the bar there too. So you can write that number down. Here the kids have gone back to their desks. They have their Go Math books open to the right lesson, and they're working on the 3 share and show questions that I assigned them from the Smartboard. The questions are basically a summary of everything that I taught, and I can go around and just make sure they do just those 3, and then we're checking them to be sure they understood the lesson, make sure they're understanding what we want them to. It's a chance to reteach something if we need to, and it's a chance for the kids to show us what they know before they go on to the more challenging independent pieces. You'll notice there's a lot of people in the room. We had a group with us that were there to present the lesson and film it, and we're all teachers, so the minute the kids were working on their own, we all sort of jumped in and or helping or not helping, but helping them guide their thinking. So that's why you see all of us in the room there. It wasn't a planned event at all, but there we are. And then, of course, Michelle Zajac is the teacher, so she was around doing her normal, wonderful things she does with her assistant Jamie Bunting that's in there for one of the students that needed ESE support. The last thing I mentioned, you'll see one of the students did a really good job explaining his thinking to me. I like to set up what I called office hours for them. So one of the students that maybe struggled with a problem but ended up solving it on his own and explaining it well, that's a good teacher for the other kids, to let them hear him explain his way of thinking, because sometimes kids learn better from each other than they do from us.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to actually talk with one of the teachers, Michelle Sajak, and her students at Curlew Creek, and learn more about what using the smartboard means to them in their classes.